Vive la France! Great signing, Falvey. The Twins finally addressed first base. But now that they did, one of us is not so sure they should have done it. Find out what I mean after getting locked on Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Locked On Twins, your daily go-to source for the top Minnesota Twins insight, discourse, and analysis. Personally, it's my favorite show of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, by the way, brings you your team every day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe where applicable. I'm Dave Brown, an MLB writer since before Emmanuel Rodriguez was born, a BBWA member since around the time Target Field opened, and a Baseball Hall of Fame voter who checked yes on Joe Mauer. Across the Great Plains and cyberspace is Brandon Warren, a longtime Twins writer and even longer time Twins fan, who is now the big shot expert at Puckett's Pond. Read all about the Twins over there. Today's show will be a lot like other recent shows where we will analyze to death a recent free agent signing by the Twins. They do have money stashed somewhere. They have added first baseman Ty France, late of the Mariners mostly. Brandon said the signing made sense, but I wonder if the Twins don't already have Ty France at home with Jose Miranda. Before we get to the heart of the matter, you should know that there's no smoking at Locked On Twins. Brandon, the Twins have signed France, a 30-year-old first baseman who has an all-star game to his credit, but was hampered by a broken heel in 2024. Another caveat I would throw out there, I did mention he's 30, yes. Another caveat is Safeco is kind of like a big, San Francisco is known for the fog, and San Diego is known for the marine layer, but Safeco Park also does something to offensive baseball statistics. They're all muted there. It's hard to hit in Safeco. So when you look at Ty France's raw numbers, they don't really grab you really raw. It's not a huge amount of power that he's given, but he's had a couple of nice seasons. He had this injury, which really hastened his departure from the Mariners last year. It happened in June. He was hit by a pitch, I think by a Royals pitcher, on his heel, and he was starting to hit last year like he made the All-Star team in 2021 or one of those two. And he was getting hot. I noticed this stat. Over his past 27 games before getting hit with the pitch, France has a 267, 365, 500 slash line, 6 doubles, 5 homers, 18 RBIs, 10 walks, and 23 strikeouts. And then he gets hit by the pitch on the heel. He's not really the same. 6 weeks later or so, he's DFA'd and finds himself on the Reds to finish the season. And now he's coming to the Twins. Your first impression I saw on Twitter was that this made sense for the Twins to sign France. He's a first baseman after all, and they don't have a lot of those on the roster. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess the best way I could term his year last year is we're not doing a crossover episode with Jeff Carr for how he performed in Cincinnati. And there's a reason why he was still free agent. And there's a reason why the contract is worth only $1 million. But excuse me, for all the warts that he had last year, it was still a 93 weighted runs created plus, which again is not good at all if you play first base like he does. But a career line with a 113 weighted runs created plus, and the fact that Seattle does kind of steal your offensive potential from you in many ways. The years he had in 2021 and 2022, where he had a 129 weighted runs created plus and a 127, give me a little more hope that getting him out of Seattle would be, I think I said, you rescue guys from Colorado, but I also think offensively, Seattle, in some ways, you do that too. Did I say that in our last show about somebody?
You did. I don't remember who it was about, but I remember you.
Luis Urias. Yeah. So I think that for a year and $1 million non-guaranteed, there are much worse gambles to take. I saw a Guardians fan whose opinion I respect say this would have been a better move than Carlos Santana. Now, that's
for them.
Yes, for them.
Yeah.
I don't say that to rustle you up about the fact that I know you really appreciate and respect Santana's defense. But now with that said, I also think too, this also speaks to the idea that the Twins are not looking to put up any sort of like permanent wall to block Jose Miranda at first base or whoever else they think can play there. It's more along the lines of, all right, this is a veteran bat available for virtually nothing with no guarantees. He's been a league average hitter or better in all but one of his, actually, I guess not his rookie season too, but anyway, better than 100 weighted runs created plus in 4 of his last 5 seasons. There's possibly something here, maybe not, but at the end of the day, they say he's made some swing changes and he's been there before and not that long ago. He's not that old, and he can maybe play a passable second or third base, but probably not. But he can move around a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I just have a hard time donating or dedicating too much negative energy to a guy like this, especially when I wanted the Twins to trade for him a couple years ago.
Right. Yeah, he was a guy who had become a popular player in Seattle. I think he's viewed by those fans, or was, as one of those good dudes off the field, and grateful to be a major league player and happy to be in the major leagues and not someone who's like full of himself or whatever. So that's the impression I've gotten from Mariners fans over the years. They've named giveaways after Ty France. I don't know if it's a bobblehead. I would imagine everybody seems to get one every once in a while. It's he was an all-star with them. The positives, potentially are there. As you mentioned, it's only it's $1 million. It's not our money, but the Pohlads probably like that part. It's a non-guaranteed deal. Let's emphasize that. Phil Miller reported when he was signed that it's a major league deal, but it's non-guaranteed. And we'll talk a little bit more about the players that the Twins had to lose somebody off the 40-man roster for this to happen. And it's kind of interesting that it's a non-guaranteed deal, but it's still a major league deal. I don't know for a fact why it was signed exactly in that way, or who might benefit from that, or what are the incentives. I do have a theory I floated to Dan Hayes, who didn't respond, that it's a major league deal. He's probably busy right now. It's a major league deal, but it's not guaranteed. And the major league deal sort of makes the Twins invest in him a little bit. They had to give up Headrick. They lost Headrick to waivers. The Yankees picked him up, Brent Headrick. And so now the Twins have it's not a guaranteed contract because they want to see how healthy he is. We'll see about these swing changes. Denny Hocking mentioned that he's gone through some swing changes and is looking really good in practice. I guess that's the word from Southern California on how France is doing. So we'll see if the swing changes will stick. We'll see if the heel is healed. It's not the only injury that he's had in the last 2 years or so. Since he was named to the All-Star team, his last 300 games or so with the Mariners, he was not terribly productive. His defense is also, last year it tanked. I'm going to just say that's probably because of the heel.
Do Young Park actually pointed that out, of StatCast, formerly of Twins fame, that 8 of the 12 runs below average he was on OAA came after the heel. So, I mean, there's a pretty good correlation causation there.
Which is not, it wasn't like a lot of time. So he must have been really hobbled by this thing. And a broken heel, it sounds like it would be. It's a freaky injury, but you need that base to be able to stand in a box or to get in a defensive position. So that's going to mess you up.
Got to let that thing heal.
Yeah. So we'll see how he does as far as that goes. My misgivings about this. Now, he's a right-handed hitter, which is mostly good against lefties, I think, in his career.
He's actually pretty much neutral against both.
Is
like
he?
730, 740, 750 against both, which helps the Twins, but also, again, protects them much in the same way Danny Coulomb does against right-handed hitters. It's not a crazy drop-off. So you're not getting maneuvered for, let's say, Tyler Holton or some specialist, like really good late-inning reliever in divisional games, which is good.
I like that he has experience at first base. The Twins hardly had any of that on their roster. They're talking about, or people are talking about, Edouard Julien playing first and Willie Castro playing first, and that's not great.
No.
I do wonder if you look at Zips, if you look at what Zips projects for France and for Miranda, there's hardly any difference. It's actually pretty similar. 0.9 FWAR for France, 0.8 for Miranda, 108 weighted runs created plus for Miranda, 103 for France. These are not very big differences, and they're statistical. They're better than guesses, but they're educated guesses. That sounds a lot like the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it was necessary to go with France. Now, if he can play better defense than I think Miranda can, and if he's healthy, he should, then I'm a little more into it.
Well, so Fangraphs roster resource has power rankings of players, and Jose Miranda is a 158, and Ty France is 162. So, I mean, neck and neck. Now, with that said, their projected roster has both of them, obviously, but it nudges Austin Martin off the roster. Now, that's it comes down to their last bench spot goes to Edouard Julien. It's Vasquez, France, Julien, Bader, which is a really good bench regardless of who the fourth man is after France, Bader, and Vasquez. But I think the fact that you are just adding another big league caliber, capable hitter when he's at his best, doesn't strike out. He can walk every now and then, more contact over power, I guess. I don't know. Is that fair to say? Maybe it's no, I don't think that's fair to say. I think I'm thinking of maybe someone else we talked about before, but either way,
he is a good contact. Maybe he's tailed off there, but Scott Survey, their manager, praised him for his bat to ball skills.
Okay.
And, when he was struggling, so he's got that in his bag.
I thought maybe I was crossing my wires with our episode about shortstop options, because we had talked about someone else who was better bat to ball than power. Maybe that was Iglesias. But as far as France goes, again, like, I'm having a hard time really being upset that they've shoehorned another big league experienced infielder in there, and without the guarantee, I'm not. Also, kind of as a transition here, I'm not losing sleep over who they lost on waivers. So ultimately, it's kind of a we'll see what happens kind of move for me.
We'll take our break and we'll talk a little bit more about what this means maybe for other players on the roster with France moving in to town. The Twins have signed free agent Ty France, and we'll talk more about it when we get back.
Dave, this is a new sponsor, and it's one that's very important to my family, and it's one that we deal with on a daily basis at our house. Mm-hmm. It's Wonderful Pistachios. My wife is absolutely obsessed with pistachios, and they're a new sponsor, and we are just delighted. If you're looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Sometimes I mess with my daughter and I say delicious instead of delicious, and she hates it. But I would say that about the pistachios that we bring home. And they're Wonderful Pistachios. They are one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily expected value, plus packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling full longer. I know that my wife eats them before bed, and she loves that she won't wake up in the middle of the night really wanting a snack or anything like that. And she wakes up in the morning still feeling satiated. So again, pistachios, tremendous. And so, yeah, that's a before bed snack at our house. I and she both personally prefer the in-shell ones, but they also have no-shell varieties too. Those are good for quick grab and go, or if you're sending them in a lunch with the kids and they don't have time to sit there cracking nuts all day. That's another option. But whether I'm snacking at my desk on a road trip or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my and my wife's go-to. Again, if you're going to do mindless snacking or not think about it, mix in some pistachios there, because it's obviously not as bad as some of those other options that you can put in your face trap. Get snackin and get crackin with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Again, that's wonderfulpistachios.com. Kind of threw you for a loop there, didn't I?
Yeah, but from what I hear, it sounds like these nuts are awesome.
These nuts. I try to pull that joke on my wife all the time, and it works like 5% of the time at most. And it gets an eye roll.
That's good.
And it gets an eye roll 99% of the time.
Right. Well,
yeah.
Great
pistachios, though. Great pistachios.
You prefer the in shell? What's the not see if you can. What's the difference? I know one has a shell and one doesn't. But.
The trick for me is it meters your consumption, so you have time for your body to process that you're eating something, and you know how your body tells you when you're full later than you're actually full. It helps kind of mitigate that, so you don't gorge on a snack. And yeah, she read somewhere too that they help you fall asleep and stay asleep. So that's another one that is pretty exciting.
You guys have thought about this. I like that. I understand where you're coming from on the pacing yourself as far as
we've not to belabor the point, but we're on a different health journey, and pistachios are a big part of that. So check them out.
All right, you hear that up there, listeners? Go get your nuts.
If you're pistachio curious, check out Wonderful.
So my first thought was when they hired Ty France was that Miranda had to be warned about his job because he was kind of projected to be the first baseman.
Yeah.
Greg with 3 Gs said, maybe not. Maybe this is like Edward. This is going to affect Edward Julian more.
Did you see my response to that?
Anybody else? What'd you say?
Of course it's going to affect Edouard Julien. He's French-Canadian, and what's more French than someone named Ty France? Like, I mean, the parallels are right there for you.
Sacre bleu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to be there when someone asked Edouard Julien again what it's like to be related to French people. He's like, again with the question about France. I don't care. I'm just here to get on base.
I'm just here to get on base and answer questions about being French, and I'm all out of on base percentage.
In the second half, he was.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it is possible for France and Miranda to coexist in the roster because we have a DH spot, and we also have other positions around the infield where guys don't necessarily stay healthy, and Miranda could go play third sometimes. So it's not, it doesn't necessarily they could have both guys, I think, and we've talked before about how, hey, the Twins need another right-handed hitter to go up against these lefties, and France does that.
I do like, though, that he's more net neutral against righties so that you aren't, kind of pigeonholed into, oh, my gosh, we got Kyle Garlick, and he can't hit righties at all, and they're not going to let you face, Oliver Perez in the 8th inning if you're facing the Guardians a few years ago. They're going to bring in someone to blow you away from the right side. And so, like, the idea of right-handed platoon bats makes more sense than the execution, too, especially now in the day of, specialized bullpens where even though you got to throw a full inning, it's still guys throwing smoke. It's still guys throwing, a slider that'll melt your face. Speaking of, I wrote up a prospect or a guy the Twins signed this offseason named Alex Spees, who I want to make sure people are watching for in spring training.
Yeah,
because he's made the big leagues despite having a minor league ERA of like 6. He throws 102 miles per hour with a slider cutter combo. And if he ever figures out command, he and Joan Duran are going to be incredible. But anyway, that was just something I wrote up today at Puckett's Pond. And I wrote up every single minor league free agent signing, non-roster invitee with a little bit of information. And that one jumped out to me. Like, I did not know they had a guy who could throw 100 in camp besides Duran. So
can't Alcala get up there sometimes? Can he get?
Yeah, I don't know. I think 97, 98, 99. I think he can tickle 100, but I'm not sure it's there after. Yeah, right after the shoulder stuff and the arm stuff. But he's in that mix. I mean, these are not your older brothers twins where Matt Guerrier and Jesse Crane are flamethrowers as opposed to the guys now.
I remember those guys. I like those guys.
They're throwing their Willie Nelson fastballs. They're 92 and high.
That's pretty funny.
I actually don't know how old Willie Nelson is right now.
I think he's 90. Is he 99? No, he's not that old. Isn't he 95?
91. That is a Willie Nelson Minnesota Twins fastball, 91 and high. It's the Scott Diamond special.
And also, it's really difficult to separate them from their money when it comes to tax time. I don't know if that's true, but it's true of Willie Nelson.
I said Andrew Albers threw a Ronald Reagan fastball, and that was anywhere from 86 to 88. Terrible jokes.
88. That was about the time Reagan lost his fastball for sure. I think that's what you're getting at. So
yeah. He lost his pistachios.
We know we've talked about what the signing of France might mean for Miranda and Julian. But we know also it's cost the Twins Brent Headrick, left-handed pitcher. They had to clear a roster spot because they knew France was coming in, and Headrick has been picked up by the Yankees on waivers. So we know that they've put at least that much into it. He's with the Yankees, and Ronny Henriquez, who had been designated for assignment, was claimed by the Marlins. So you talked about some guys invited to camp, possibly with like Spees with a chance to maybe, if not make the roster, sort of put his hat in the ring for some time this season. The Twins have lost a little bit of bullpen depth in the past 24 hours. And it's a place where they could afford to lose some players. They have other guys, but I was a little disappointed that Headrick was gone. I would have maybe could they have exposed Tonkin instead? And I don't know.
Tonkin, maybe Cantorino again. Love Cantorino, but I don't know if anybody's claiming him right now with where they're at. And like I was thinking about this, and then the folks in the group chat were saying something about DFA. I don't think you have to DFA a player if you outright them on outright waivers by itself. I think you can DFA to clear the space if you need the space right away. Now, if you try to outright them, you still end up having that, first outright basically free of charge where they stay in the organization if they clear, and then they can reject every subsequent outright. So maybe I was being pedantic about, he wasn't DFA'd, I don't think. But this time of year to try take guys off the 40 it's a calculated risk. Now, granted, they were going to have to do it no matter what for France in the first place. But as I've noted both in print and then even here, teams are not adding too much to their 40-man rosters right now outside of some outside free agents. They're signing guys to minor league deals and that sort of thing, but there's definitely a league-wide 40-man crunch. So taking a guy off now is strategic in the sense that you probably could slip a few more guys past than you'd expect. Henriquez with a live arm, I'm not terribly surprised he was claimed. And I don't know for sure how the off-season waiver order goes, but I would assume it means that Headrick nearly cleared if he got all the way to the Yankees, whereas Henriquez was claimed by one of the first teams to have a crack at him, which not a pistachio pun, I might add. So I don't know. I mean, maybe they were right about Headrick, and they got close to getting him to clear and keep him in the organization. And who knows? He might be like, is it Rosny Contreras, who's been out DFA'd and cleared like 4 times this offseason? Maybe he gets on that wagon. I don't see a universe where the Twins should lament Headrick too much. He's 27, doesn't have a ton of big league experience, and 40-man spots are hard to come by. So it stinks that it had to be him. Maybe it should have been Tonkin. Maybe it could have been Tonkin. But at the same time, I can't say that I'm as like crazily surprised as some of the other people are.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was surprised that some people were floating Headrick as a possibility before. And I thought, well, him, would they? But well,
they did.
There's a little bit of, they still don't have like a super amount of left-handed pitching depth. Now,
There's 2 on the 40 right now. If putting you on the spot, do you know exactly who they are?
On the 40?
Yes.
Oh, Kulam and Cody Funderburk, right?
Funder down under. Yes, that's right. I wrote that up today, and I had to make sure that I was remembering it. Also, fun fact, this is not about Andrew Albers. Pablo Lopez is a left-handed hitter. Had no idea.
Is he really? Well, yeah, that's something we don't have to know anymore because there's no more.
I was thumbing through.
There's no more pitchers hitting
pipeline lists because 2025 updates are still hard to come by, and I went all the way back. I was trying to find Darren McCracken just to see if he'd ever been on a list. And I got back to 2020 Mariners, I think it was, or 2019. And 29th on their list young man named Pablo Lopez, who they thought had a future as maybe a back end starter if he could find, I think it was an out pitch or maybe a little added velo. So that was kind of a fun little walk down memory lane.
It was either a future as a back end starter or a doctor, one of those two. They couldn't really figure out which one he was.
I know what I'd prefer. Get you a man who can do both, though, right?
Exactly right. In case there's like a medical emergency, that'd be a good question to ask him. Like, what are you qualified to do in case somebody almost dies in the field? Can you jump in and help them?
Yeah, like if he was at that Bills game where DeMar Hamlin went into cardiac arrest, like he could have been the hero.
He could have been. That scouting report on Pablo reminds me a little bit of what people still kind of say about Joe Ryan and Matt Festa, that maybe that's their limit.
David Festa, wrong Festa.
Did I say Matt?
Yep.
Did they say anything about Matt Festa?
I don't think so.
But it just sort of reminds me of those limitations that, well, maybe those guys, David Festa and Joe Ryan, are going to turn out to be more like Pablo turned out to be more. I think I think about that whenever I see limited scouting reports or expectations for even Joe at this point.
And the guys that they've had hit the waiver wire here, Henriquez and Headrick, like maybe that speaks to the fact that the 40-man is in actually pretty good shape with terms of quality. I mean, if the next two guys off are either Cantorino or Tonkin or Aberson Castellano getting sent back to Philly, like that means 37, 38 of your spots are guys who you really like and are really convinced can help you out.
I was thinking the same thing, that it seems like it makes sense to us based on how they performed last year, but the Twins are a little bit deeper than they were even a year ago. They haven't had the offseason that I think everybody would necessarily like with right. But they have ended up spending more money than I think we maybe thought they would at some point. To me, I was sort of preparing myself for no additions because the Pohlads didn't want to add any more debt because of the sale going on or whatever their thought process.
I look at this depth chart, and Edouard Julien has an option, and none of the other bench players do. Nobody in the starting lineup that I think is going to go back down outside of maybe Brooks Lee exists. What if they still signed a shortstop for the bench? I feel like a bench of Christian Vasquez, Ty France maybe starting at first base or whatever, Harrison Bader, and like one of those shortstops we talked about in that episode just yesterday.
Urias.
Yeah, Urias or Paul DeYoung. I mean, that again, like you'd have to clear another 40 spot, but that'd be a pretty dang good bench. And I don't think the Ty France signing, it's $1 million. They've got room. It shouldn't drastically alter the fact that if they were looking at a shortstop before, the Pohlads shouldn't be like, nope, you spent that $1 million we had. Nope. No Paul DeYoung for you.
No, I think you're right. But there's also, you remember how at the beginning of the offseason, we thought, well, if they're hamstrung with free agent signings, certainly there'll be a trade or two in there. I think that's still in play. I think there's still a couple guys on the 40 and maybe even on the projected 26 that they would just assume be somewhere else.
Well, it's a no trade Falvey situation where we thought there would be one, but there hasn't been. And so, I mean, if I'm Chris Pack, I'm keeping my phone on me, or if I'm Christian Vasquez, and that's not me saying I want to trade either of those guys. I think they are both respected veterans who can help this team, but I don't know. I can't quantify this. I can't put like a reason on it. I just have this feeling I can't shake. It's going to be Paul DeYoung.
Okay.
I was writing up the Twins for their opening series against the Cardinals, which is going to be kind of fun because Sonny Gray may just start opening day, and they're a brand new looking team in a lot of respects. But who knows if they're
half-assed off season?
Right? Yeah. Who knows if they're going to trade Arenado? Who knows if they'll trade Sonny Gray? Maybe Miles Michaelis starts on opening day. I don't know, but Paul DeYoung having a homecoming that first series would be kind of fun. I mean, again, not exactly like Torrey Hunter coming back to Minnesota for the first time, but
I
don't
like
know.
that you're already working the angles, though. I like that.
I'm a content machine now, man. Puckett's Ponds put me to work. So no, I have this unshakable feeling that it's going to be Paul DeJong, and it's going to be maybe in the next day or two. But I, again, can't substantiate it. It's not a sourced thing. It's just kind of a buzzing in my ears. And
Psychic feeling?
Maybe it's something else buzzing in my ears. I don't know.
Could be. Maybe it's the Sambuca from before, or Chambuca, whatever it was. Before we go. Exactly. Kombucha. I want to get this list of Minnesota Twins with names of countries on the record. Thai France, of course, added to the famous Mark.
Oh, I know one. Mark Portugal.
I'm giving my list. Mark Portugal. But of course, there's also Chad Allen, Chad Moeller, and Rich Childs, which looks like chiles, multiple chilies. Mike Cook Islands, Ruben Sierra Leone, Jordan Balazovic, Jordan Luplo, Jordan Schaefer, and then there's Germany Schaefer, real person, Buck Jordan, Rip Jordan, and Tim Jordan, who all played for the Senators. And this one, which is not real, but I'm including it anyway, Carl Poland, plus his kids.
Cheap Poland. German Gonzalez is close, but not quite, too.
It is. And Shayla also mentioned Chili Davis, but it's not spelled the same way. So
yeah, I'll allow it on
a little bit. Speaking of technicalities, it's technically time to leave. For Brandon Warren and Ty France, this is Dave Brown saying, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, saying we will Alexei Casilla tomorrow night.
Right.
Will we see Alexei Casilla on the 40, though? Probably not.
Maybe the 50.